1. Welcome into our Backyard Brothers podcast. We have a guest, the Backyard Patriarch, I guess you could say. Uh, and so um, our, uh, our podcast has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 today. I had to count for some reason. Um, well, we have a full group, and we'll be talking about it about a lot of different topics today. But just wanted, I think Dad's been on our show this is number 3, I believe, a Christmas special back when we had first started. I think like episode 2, and then a NBA or NFL preview show, and now this one. So we always like to have you, Dad, here. So
thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna. It's Dustin's turn for the analysis, memory, biography segment, whatever. And so we're gonna send it over to Dustin to take us through a play analysis, I believe.
Yeah. So we're gonna look at something that the Celtics did really well in Game 1, and what they've continued to do all throughout Game 2 as well, and what they're kind of struggling with so far in Game 3. And see this. So this is, I'm going to share screen here or show something, and we can watch it a few times over, pick it apart, and see what we got here. So just a minute. All right. So this is the very first play that the Celtics ran on Game 1, and I'll play it through once, and then we'll go through again. So.
Nice.
All right, so it ended up with an Al Horford dunk. So I'm gonna play it again here. So very first thing, all 5 players outside of the 3-point line, and even more, there's 3 Mavericks players outside the 3-point line. They're not guarding the hoop. And then it spreads out more, and again, all the Celtics players spread out to the 3-point line. And then that gives a one-on-one with Al Horford, who's able to easily blow by his man. And then as he finishes, again, everybody is outside the 3-point line, and you got at least one person wide open in the corner just in case that didn't happen. And so what the Celtics have been doing is staying on the 3-point line with their shooters, and then they have each different player. Whoever has the ball, they have lots of passes, lots of off-ball movement, and they probe the paint and pass it out for open threes until they get an open shot. Anybody else have any call-outs or something we want to go back to see?
So that's a base 3-2 defense from the Mavericks, right?
Yeah, I think they're doing kind of like a flex man. They have a
flex?
Man, but they're flexing kind of in and out of it through a zone with the perimeter.
Okay, because when they first came up, the guy sitting in the middle, when he drifted left, that was when the other man had come down a little bit. That's why I was thinking 3-2, especially with the positions that the guys that are in the spots are playing. I was just curious if that was the setup you saw.
Yeah, what's interesting, I think that the Mavericks did play a lot of zone, and what's interesting, I've seen this in a lot of different plays and some other things that I could have showed that the Mavericks getting confused in rotation, and they're often having accidental double teams on people that don't have the ball because of this bad rotation.
Okay.
A couple of things for me. So the guy wide open in the corner at the very end of the play is Jaylen Brown. So I mean that's a wide open 3 for a guy that's going to make that wide open shot 75% of the time. Also, I'm curious if Dustin, you're the closest one to it. Who's the guy that jumped out on Al Horford for the Mavericks? Who jumped on the shot for him to take that 3?
Yeah, let's watch it again.
Is that Gafford?
Yeah, it's Gafford, and he jumps, right? He falls for the pump fake.
And Al Horford can make those shots, but yes, he can make them, but I don't really think. I think that's a mistake, obviously, to go out there and jump on Al Horford, who's probably out of the 5 on the court right now, the worst 3-point shooter. 5, even though he can make them. and you're giving up a wide open dunk. No one else is in the paint to challenge. And not only that, but once you jump, you open up pretty much all 5 players for dishes as well if someone comes down.
Yeah, you can see how everybody crashed right here, right? They all crashed, those two. And so he could have passed out to anybody. He had the dunk and he took the dunk, but he could have passed out for everybody. And that's what the Celtics have done is they get to this point and then they pass it out for open threes.
Yeah, it looks like you have point guard Brown and who's that guy? He's been playing incredible defense.
Derek White.
White, thank you. He had a nutso block in the game 2, I think it was.
Yeah,
that was nice.
All right. Any other comments on what the Celtics are doing great? What maybe Mavericks have not been doing so great at?
I think really just one small thing I have, and I forget who mentioned it a couple weeks back, but in basketball as well, we mentioned in hockey that no one's faster than the ball or no one's faster than the puck, right? And that's what makes these teams so successful in setting up these plays is you're obviously not going to be faster than the ball. You have to try to break down to whoever has the ball. And if you're going to be offsetting them so fast, you're going to get shots like that. So there's the jump that we mentioned that was the bad defense. But other than that, they're just trying to adjust. I think they're doing fairly well on defense. They could have done better, but it's just hard to cover something like that.
Yeah, so I don't have a video prepared, but it's interesting to watch the Mavericks in Game 1 and Game 2 do not have any sense of the same style of passing. It is either Luka or Kyrie dribbling for 90% of the play.
That's been their whole postseason, though, too.
Yes.
That's what they do. Yeah, it's ISO ball, and it's worked for 3 series, but now they're up against the Celtics.
All right.
Did they get Porzingis back?
No,
He's out today.
He's out? Okay. That was my only other question. Is that affecting him thus far, Dustin?
Yes, because they need to have here, let me switch this real quick. Sorry, let me get back on here. So yes, it's affecting them because they don't have the same spread. That space is so important to the Celtics. And so right now they have, I forget who it is out there on the court right now, but Luke Cornett is kind of the backup center. They're trying to play a little smaller. I think right now Peyton Pritchard's out there. So they're trying to play a little smaller, and they're just not being able to spread out with that same size. And so it's affecting them a little bit. But right now it's a close game. It's tied. I think it's 32-31, actually, Celtics.
Nice.
It's not Luke Cornett. Luke Cornett is huge. He's like 7'2".
Yeah.
It looks like they Horford started, obviously, but Sam Hauser and Xavier Tillman have been the 2 guys that have come off the bench.
That's who basically took Porzingis' spot. But right now they're going small ball.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, let's seamless transition into how the first 2 games have looked. So I'm going to steal the screen. And are you seeing Mavericks for Celtics here?
Yep.
So game 1 was not close. Celtics won by anyone can do quick math. That's 28 points, right? 107-89.
18.
18. Okay, I got the one digit off. 18 points. Game 2 was a lot closer, just a 7-point win, but still, Celtics won the first 2 games. So it's close right now in the second quarter in Dallas. But
that one was the Derek White game-saving block where Mavericks had that breakaway that was going to bring it to within 3 points, and Derek White had that amazing block to switch the complete momentum over. Beautiful.
Celtics have been playing just beautiful basketball. Porzingis is going to hurt. His absence will hurt a little bit, as we've talked about. But Mavericks defense hasn't been quite good enough up to standard. And you mentioned, you called it out, Dustin, and what exactly they're doing. They're breaking down that Dallas defense. The strength of it is in the interior. And Boston said, okay, we just won't go in there. And they're just shooting from outside and they're making those shots. And Dustin, if you're going to be right, Dallas has to win the next 4 games in a row. So, but
Yep.
I think that, and you're looking at, obviously I'm still thinking of that my prediction is most realistic, but I'm thinking maybe I should have just gone with 4 at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting to the Mavs, and well, call this to the Celtics' credit, but the Mavs have not shot well at all. Like all throughout the playoffs, they've been shooting really, really well and scoring really, really well, and they're 5-10% lower than they normally do in the series. Credit to the Celtics defense, but they've also just missed a whole lot of wide open shots. And so if the Mavs are able to get back into kind of the groove that they felt during the postseason, they really could blow this series wide open.
I mean, it's a big stage to be on. It's a lot of pressure. I mean, that's got to have something to do with it, right?
you'd think, I mean, but I mean, the Celtics have been here before. They were in the finals 2 years ago, lost. This Dallas team, I mean, Kyrie Irving's been there. He's won a championship before. But I think he might be the only one on that team, other than the coach, Jason Kidd. But so, I mean, that may have something to do with it. But yeah,
I think a lot of what we're seeing is kind of too much workload stuck on Kyrie and Doncic. Both of them feeling like they have to be the team, and they're not using the rest of the team enough to kind of use their supporting cast to give you a breather, because it's you can't come down and score every time and just alternate guys. You're going to wear them out, and the tread on that tire is going to just start to drop. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing. And the Celtics are taking advantage in those moments. Every time there's a lull in the pace, they're able to quicken the pace, as opposed to the Mavericks praying for a break in pace and just not getting it.
Yeah, it's interesting, looking back on previous series with the Thunder, especially the way that the Mavs beat the Thunder. They had so many lobs at the rim, for Gafford and Lively and Jones and all of those. And they're just not able to get them against the Celtics. And the one thing that had me screaming at the TV during the Thunder series is they were not making Luka work on defense. Luka was able to stand still and just guard someone in the corner the entire defensive possession. In this series, the Celtics are running him around. They're making him be engaged on defense, and you can see it in Luka's posture. He's tired.
and he's hobbling around. He has 2 injuries that he's dealing with at the same time. But looking at Kyrie's numbers, for example, Kyrie hasn't been playing well at all through the first 2.5 games so far. He's 13 of 37 through the first 2 games. And he still hasn't made a 3-pointer in the 3 games. He's 0 for 11 from 3 in the 2.5 games so far. And so obviously Luka needs Robin to help Batman out, and he's not getting it. And against a team like the Celtics, you need Robin and you need Batman. You probably need Batgirl too. And there's no
Hope Mr. Freeze took a day off as governor for California. I don't know.
Yeah.
And all the credit. Let's not just talk about that Luka and Kyrie are playing poorly, but one of the commentators said in the previous game, or somebody said that Derek White and Drew Holiday could be the greatest defensive backcourt of this generation. Absolutely. They are so good on defense, and they're both long. They're both fast and athletic. They're incredible on defense, and they're really hampering those guards.
How big is Brown again? I remember thinking when I saw how tall he was, I was like, "Well, that's a little surprising."
Yeah.
Like 6'6", 6'7", something like that.
Brown's 6'7". Drew Holiday, he's playing point guard. He's 6'4", and Derek White's probably 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", somewhere around there as well. And so this is this is a big team.
Yeah.
Tatum's 6'8". So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we'll see what happens through the rest of the night. But if Dallas doesn't get their stuff together, this could be over on Friday. So we'll see about that. But any last comments about NBA Finals?
It's currently 40-38 Boston with 5 minutes in the second quarter.
Let's go Boston.
All right, let's move over to a different NBA topic. We lost a legend today. A legend who's even immortalized on NBA courts and NBA jerseys and NBA everything because he's the NBA logo. Jerry West passed away today at the age of 86. Dustin, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. Great intro. Obviously, Jerry West, was part of the Lakers during the 60s, which they won many championships and has become immortalized for his greatness as the logo. But he's also in the Hall of Fame, I think, a total of 3 times. Once as a player, once as a coach, and once as an executive. There's no greater foundation for the NBA than what Jerry West has built. And it's interesting, his bring up, reading a little bit of his biography. Born very poor in West Virginia, and grew up and was able to learn to play basketball. And then went to the University of West Virginia playing basketball. Eventually drafted and went and played for the Lakers all during the 60s, and then of course ended up teaming up with Wilt Chamberlain, won some titles with him, and then became basically one of the faces of the NBA, especially with the Lakers organization, but also helped get the Grizzlies organization off the ground whenever they first started, and a few others as a consultant, and helping bring the NBA all through its popularity during the 80s and 90s, and then exploding again in recent years. So this is a foundational player.
Mr. Clutch.
Yeah.
I was reading just a little bit about him just before we jumped on. Couple things. So he has 9 championships to his name, but do you know how many came as a player? Just one. Just one. He won 1 championship in 1972. I think you said with Wilt with the Lakers, and then won 8 more as a general manager or an executive in some capacity. I think 5 more with the Lakers, the Showtime Lakers, and then 3 with the Golden State Warriors as an executive later during the Steph, Draymond, Clay, Kevin Durant.
He's also the only player to lose the finals and win the finals MVP.
Yeah.
That's a fact we should put out there. His team lost, and he was still the most valuable player on the court. And I think that's a caveat that should forever be attached to his name.
I think that's great. I wonder how many, if that has happened any other time. I know it happened one time in the NFL. A player on the losing team won the Super Bowl MVP one year for the Dallas Cowboys. But I wonder how many times that's happened. Probably not often.
When I was looking it up in the NBA anyway, they said that was the only time it had happened that a member of the losing team had won the MVP in the finals. I don't know if that's if that's true across other sports, but I know it to be true for that one.
Yeah, it's great to see that he's set up a wonderful organization, but also is a man of class. And this is a guy that had a rough upbringing. Reading a little bit of his biography, he said for several years as a child he slept with a loaded shotgun because he was afraid of his father. And then he had a brother die in the Korean War, and grew up and when he joined the Lakers, many of his teammates said they couldn't understand him because his accent was too strong. They didn't know what he was saying all the time. His West Virginian accent was too strong, and he had to work on a lot of things in order to adapt, and then became this person who defines the NBA literally as the logo.
Think about that. This is going to go off the rails, but I think of the movie Deliverance when I hear that, and like the whole squealing like a pig kind of a thing. So, yeah.
You got a
Sorry.
pretty mouth. Don't get me started. We'll be here all day.
I was thinking the coach and the water boy.
You're over there homo naked. You like to see homos naked. Homo, where you make it?
I think really the only other thing I'd like to say, I mean, you guys have said it all great, is with that backstory you mentioned, Dustin. I mean, he encapsulates the American dream, if you will. You know, the background you're saying he comes from, and all that he was able to establish and do himself, and then being memorialized within the NBA. I mean, that's picture perfect American dream right there.
I think
I think that Jerry West will stay as the logo for many years to come.
Right.
I don't know of any player that'll take over that, at least in the next couple of years, but it's great to continue to see him immortalized in that way.
remember discussion about Kobe Bryant maybe taking up the mantle of that logo, but now with Jerry West passing away, you think that's going to quiet down for a little while. Okay, next up, unless anyone has anything else about Jerry West, we're gonna take a quick check-in on the Stanley Cup Finals. So, which spoiler alert is very similar to the NBA Finals right now. Whoops, that's the wrong one.
Super similar. Wow, I can't even tell the difference, Scott.
Okay.
Is it April Fool's Day again? I never do these.
Okay, so in the Stanley Cup Finals, we talked about it last week. It's the Florida Panthers, who have never won a Stanley Cup, against the Edmonton Oilers, who last won in the 90s with Wayne Gretzky. But the Panthers are up 2-0 in that series. They won both games in Florida. Did they play in Tampa? No, they didn't play in Tampa. They play in, Miami or Orlando. I don't know where they play, actually. But somewhere in Florida. But they won both games down there, and now they're going up to Canada to see if Edmonton can make this a series. But I think Cody was the lone one of us to make an Edmonton upset. But we all thought that the revenge factor. Florida was there last year. They got beat by Vegas in the Stanley Cup Finals last year. Their whole season has been a mission to get back and win it this time, and it seems like they're 2 wins away from doing just that.
Yeah, I should have hopped on the wagon there, but what I think is really impressive. I don't know if you guys saw any highlights or anything about the last game, but Florida was so Edmonton won or scored first. It was 1-0, and then Florida scored 4 unanswered to win that last game 4-1, which is really impressive. And remembering this is hockey, it's really hard to score in hockey. I mean, the goalie is literally like a foot in front of the goal. And so that was really impressive. If you want to go back and watch those highlights, it's really cool.
You can't see us.
Power of Florida, man, baby. They ain't gonna be stopped.
Panthers' home is in Sunrise, Florida, which is right between Fort Lauderdale and Miami.
Okay, so South Florida, great place to play hockey.
Yeah.
That's the first thing you think about.
Yeah.
100%. Retiring and going to play
Canadians have
hockey
played.
in Florida. That's what I think of.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else have comments?
Energy bill to keep that rink solid. That's just what I think. That's got to be a big energy bill.
Didn't know they still had an NHL. No.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to 2 topics that came up this week. Let me stop sharing so we can see each other. I don't think we need to share again today. But so 2 topics that came up this week that are they're very different but impactful in their own ways. So Joey Chestnut, how many has he won a row now? 8, I think. 6, 8, something like that. He's won
Yeah.
8 straight Nathan's famous hot dog eating contests, and he decided that. And I should have read a story. I haven't read. Maybe someone knows more than I do, but he decided to support a different brand other than Nathan's Famous, and so he's been banned from competing in the Nathan's Famous hot dog eating contests. If anyone knows more details, please jump in. But that's what I know.
I know a little bit. I mean, just a little bit. I know that the brand that he decided to support is actually a plant-based hot dog brand, which I find very interesting. So he's supporting a plant-based hot dog brand, which is, I guess, the rival of Nathan's. So if I heard it right earlier today, Nathan's had put out a statement saying because of this, we're going to ban him from the competition. But as soon as he relinquishes that or comes back, we'll welcome him with open arms. This is kind of what their statement was. But that they just won't allow it right now. But I just thought it was interesting that he's supporting a plant-based, and I guess they probably just give him a big check for that.
How old's this guy?
What?
In his 40s,
How
I
old is
think.
he?
50s.
Anybody know?
46, I
He's
think.
right around
46.
40.
That's really late to decide you're gay and start eating plant-based hot dogs. I don't know. Anyway, Nathan's are delicious. They should drop that guy 1,000 times over. I didn't know all of that was the factor. I'm gonna take his
My
place.
only
I love
question-
Nathan's hot dogs. Shout out Nathan's.
My only question is if they can determine that those hot dogs are plant-based, can they figure out what the other stuffs are made of?
Yeah, right. What are your hot dogs made of, Nathan? That's why they dropped him. They don't want you asking the big questions, Dustin. You're gonna get us kicked off of YouTube.
I have a couple of comments real quick. One, I did an internship in New York City back in 2013. The summer of 2013, I covered a baseball team up there for a summer, and I get a call on a Friday from my editor and says, "Hey, you want to go cover the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest?" And so I said, "Yeah, I've seen it." And so I went down and I got press credentials and I sat in the press row and watched Joey Chestnut win a hot dog eating contest live there from Brooklyn, New York. And so
Awesome.
I don't know how many times he had won already, but I mean, unquestionably he's the best at doing something that I don't understand. But I mean, yeah, I can probably eat 2 or 3 hot dogs, but I'm not dipping them in water. So, but yeah, it was cool to be there, to have all these people around, and me, I get to walk through them all up to the front row. But there's a lot of cool things about being a member of the press and being able to be right there and cover them. They didn't do any interviews. They only did interviews with like Sports Center.
Yeah.
But-
So
I just got.
Sorry, go ahead if you're not done.
Well, I'm done.
So an interesting thing, call out for Joey Chestnut. I think it was last year during the competition, a protester rushed the stage and tried to attack Joey. And while shoving hot dogs down his mouth, he grabbed the man by his throat and threw him down and kept going. This is
Sick
amazing.
flex. That's cool. That's the right answer to that. Who protests a hot dog eating contest? Find something to do with your life, bro. Jeez.
I have I think 2 things real quick. Just about Joey real quick. I for our podcast 2 years ago in July, I kind of talked about Joey a little bit. As you guys said already, he has 8 straight, but before that he lost 1, and then before that there was 7 other straight. So he has 15 titles, 7 straight, and then 8 more straight since then. And so it's amazing. I'm not sure you can really call it a title, but it is, And second, though, part of me is kind of more intrigued, to be honest, because every year it's like, all right, let's see how many Joey can shove. This year it's like, all right, who's going to win? So it's kind of like I'm kind of intrigued to see, who's going to win this, who's going to get the new title, instead of like, all right, is Joey going to reach 77 this time?
I am starting to question the sports you find interesting, Cody. I love you, but I'm starting to question the stuff that you invest your time into. You're like, no, you guys don't know. Joey, he's the best hot dog eater to ever exist.
My
Cody,
wife and I started a new tradition where every 4th of July we'll watch this. We'll watch the hot dog eating contest every year.
That's cool, man.
I can support that. Cody, what I'm worried about is like Joey was winning by like 25 hot dogs. Like it wasn't even close. And so it's like I'm not interested in watching the second place guy get 25 or 30 less than what is the normal standard.
Oh, that guy ate 4 hot dogs. I saw that at a barbecue the other day, and it was me. I was the guy eating 4 hot dogs.
All right.
Okay, so the next topic, the Lakers. Obviously, we just talked about Jerry West. The Lakers have a huge history of a lot of championships. They've had 17, I think, or is it
18?
18. They've 18 championships. A lot of famous head coaches. They obviously fired Darvin Ham in this offseason, probably with a good help from LeBron James. But Darvin Ham was fired, and the Lakers went after UConn head coach Dan Hurley. Dan Hurley has won back-to-back championships for UConn in NCAA tournament. They gave him a huge offer. I think it was it 7 years, $70 million, I think was the contract they offered him, and he turned him down and said, "No, I'm going back to UConn." There may be some reasons behind that. There's a lot of pressure coaching the Lakers, coaching in the NBA. There's also the intrigue, the desirability of trying to win a three-peat in UConn, and all those things. But so, what do you guys have to say about this? The Dan Hurley turning down the Lakers.
I think it's a legacy move. I think the reason you would choose to do that are things that you touched on. One, you don't want to ruin the stuff you had built at UConn by going to the Lakers and either sucking or not winning as much as people expect, or being hit in the face with the fact that the NBA is so much different than college, and just trying to tell a millionaire what to do is a lot different than trying to tell a college kid who's trying to achieve his dreams what to do. And I'm sure that factors in, and not for every coach that changes levels. But if you have a chance to go 3 in a row and you have kind of a chemistry with that team, and the guys coming in knowing that you're kind of the man there, I don't know what would really convince me to give that up. Because in your mind, you're going to get the third one, or at least you're going to try, and you think you have things in place to do that. And then with the Lakers, all of those things are unanswered, and you have to reprove everything over and over again with a bunch of prima donnas who want to get paid more to not listen to you. And so I think a lot of that would sway me to stay at UConn personally, and I think that's why he would do it too. But I don't know. I'm not the guy.
Yeah, I feel like this is like a PTI segment, because I think about it in like the whole 7 years. That's lipstick on a pig. The Lakers have fired 3 coaches in 4 years. You're not making it 7 years. Like you're not. That doesn't matter what they offer you. They're gonna, if you don't win a championship within 2 years, you're getting fired. And so why? It doesn't matter to offer how much. Offer him 28 years. It doesn't matter. They're going to fire you in 2 years, because from Dan Hurley's perspective, I'm sitting in him. It's like, hold on. You bring me in and you're saying I need to win you a championship. Winning a championship is such a hard thing to do. And of course he has the resume in order to do it, but like it takes a lot of work. And I don't think that the Lakers organization understands what it means at this point in time, this specific generation, to win a title right now. And I think Dan Hurley understands, no, I'm not ready to put up with that kind of pressure. I want to go back to UConn and handle the pressure that I'm comfortable with.
Dustin, you cut in on Dad here. He was talking just before you jumped in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I was just thinking there's a lot of coaches and players that chase the money or the fame, where really 10 million a year sounds impossible to us, but he's already making 5 or 6 million a year, and there's not a whole lot he can do
With
that
the
he
other
can
four.
do, 5 or 6 million that he would be able to do with the 10. And so he's, he made a choice based on what he's good at, and he also gets to go for a legacy. So
Yeah.
John Stockton, one of the big point guards that I think was on the dream team with him, had an offer to go somewhere else for a lot more money, and called up Stockton, and he was saying, I'd like to take this, but I don't want to move my family. I got kids in school and all of this. And he says, why would you go then? If it's for the money, you already got enough. And the guy, he ended up staying wherever he was. I don't remember who it was.
That's good.
Yeah. I think really, I mean, I agree with all of you. Like, Justin, making a comparison to football, transferring from college football to NFL is very difficult, and I imagine it's the same thing in basketball. It's a different game, it's a different strategy, it's different, and as you pointed out, Yancey, it's different egos you have to deal with as well. And he's good at UConn. This was the right decision for him. He needed to stay there. Plus, you can go win a three-peat championship. So, this was a no-brainer in my opinion. Even though he was offered 70 million or something. This was the no-brainer option.
Think back to Urban Meyer. We would all think much more highly of him if he had never gone to
The
Jacksonville.
Yeah. Very true. How many college coaches have succeeded in the NBA? How many can you think of? Maybe Brad Stevens, Butler to the Boston Celtics, and maybe the jury's still out on Billy Donovan, going from Florida to what he's done in Oklahoma City and Chicago. Are there others that you can think of that really have succeeded from college to the NBA, or even from college to the NFL? There's a couple that have done that too, but they're not it's such a different game. It's such a different environment to succeed in both.
College coach is king. You go to the NFL, players are king. Same with NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think so. Was it Krzyzewski stayed in NCAA the entire time, right? He's basically recognized as one of the best coaches in the NCAA ever, period, hands down. And I think that conversation changes if he goes to the NBA and he poops a brick. Like, I think that, and that's for any coach ever, no matter how great they were in college. We all have that fan base shift mentality of like, well, it's got to follow him, right? Like, he was great here, he's got to be great there. And I think just life has shown us that that's not always the case, and it's just so different. It's vastly different from dealing with somebody who wants their dreams to somebody who now has their dreams and can afford a jet and can flip you the finger and move cities, and not like, you can't affect their life in the same way that you can as a college coach. And I think that the difference is that the guy in the pro sport understands all of these things and doesn't try to manage a player at all. He's going to coach the game the way he coaches the games, and the players are interchangeable, like a meat market. You're not concerned with whoever they put on your team. They have to play the way you expect them to, or they're not going to play on your team. And in college, it's really just about finding good clay that you can mold into doing what you tell it to. And you can't really break people of habits once they're professionals and you're saying, hey, buddy, don't do your job that way. Do your job the way I'm telling you. When it's like, bro, I own a yacht. I'm not going to listen to you. And it's very different. And also, shout out to Marv and his billionaire mindset saying, I mean, the difference between $5 and $10 million, do you want to buy buildings and teams, or do you want to enjoy the stuff you're doing? That's sick, dude. You're smart. You get it.
It's the Coach Prime mentality that you're talking about. That I've heard from that a lot. People have asked him, "Are you going to go to the NFL now? Are you going to coach there?" And he's like, "Why would I want to do that? I want to be changing kids' lives. I want to be helping them there." That's Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, his mentality. He wants to impact people's lives rather than just win games.
Yeah, that's good point. The one that I remembered about a college coach who has succeeded in the NFL, he just returned to the NFL this year, is Jim Harbaugh. He succeeded at Stanford. He succeeded in the 49ers, and now he won a championship in Michigan. What can he do with the LA Chargers? We'll see.
That's a great
So-
reminder, Scott. That's a good coach and a good analogy for what we were talking about for sure.
Okay. So now I sent over some questions for our part of the interruption segment, hoping we can do this in about 12 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 at the most. But so again, we started this maybe a month ago, kind of throwing out some topics that are more on the debatable, argumentative side, and seeing if we can have good conversation, good debate about them from different angles. And so the first question, we've had a lot of talk, especially about a lot of NFL games being played overseas. And a lot of the talk about that has been about expanding the NFL market internationally. So they've talked about potentially a Mexico team, a Brazil team, and over in England as well. They've played in England for almost 10 years now, at least 1 or 2 games a season. So over there's Germany, there's Italy, there's France, there's all these other countries that have been linked to that kind of expansion. So the question is an NFL expansion overseas, making it a global market, is that a good idea? And I'm going to pick the way we go. I'm going to pick from my corner of the screen here. On the right, upper right is Cody here. So, and then we'll go around. Cody, actually, my right is Dad, but anyway, we'll go Cody, Dustin, Dad, Yancey, and then back to us.
All right. Well, with the question being, would it, is it a good idea? Does it benefit the NFL? Remembering the NFL is a business, right? And so I think, yeah, it would benefit, because we already know there's a lot of fans in Mexico. There's a lot of fans in Germany. There's a lot of fans in England. And there's probably more fans around that we're not fully aware of that are trying to watch the games, but can't because of whatever it is, X, Y, and Z. And so as a business, the NFL would definitely benefit from it. Growing their brand globally, getting more money that way, because that's the whole point of their business is to grow in money. And so, yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to be something that if they go that way, it's not a, I don't think they would necessarily be able to realistically, how do I say this, have the season joining really like the NFL, all its 32 teams. That would be very difficult to do. So it'd be more of they kind of have their own like global season, if you will, and then there's 32 teams in USA, and then some kind of matchup there, kind of like the I forget what it's called. There was an NFL thing that they tried doing several years ago. So I think it's a great idea, but it would be very hard administratively or logistically to actually get games happening in the season. But as a benefit, money-wise, yeah, it's a great idea.
I don't think that the NFL is ready to do that. I mean, you look at some of the bottom performing teams, whether that's Carolina, struggling to fill up their stadiums right now. Some of these teams are struggling to fill their stadiums here in where the NFL is home in the United States. They're struggling to fill up their stadiums, and so to go somewhere where football is not king, football is not even in the top 10 anywhere else in the world. It doesn't quite make sense yet. I think that as those countries kind of develop football around themselves, then it could make more sense. But I think that while there's been good turnout in those games, I like to think of it as like when one of your favorite bands has a concert in your city. It's like, oh yeah, that's great, I'm going to go to that. But if you found out that they're going to have a concert every single week, are you going to go every single week? And so I don't think that any of these other markets are quite ready either from a business, a fan support, And I don't think the NFL is quite ready. I think they need to develop some of their lower performing teams first before they're ready to make that jump.
So this past weekend, I watched the Phillies play the Mets 2 games in London. So it's all of these sports are trying out these things, but I'm closer to Dustin's thoughts because I'm just thinking logistically, Mexico is close. We can travel to Mexico and back, no different than you can to LA and back for half the teams. But Brazil and London it's a long flight. So I'm not sure that you could work that out. You could work it out better with baseball because you could play 2 or 3 games. You can play a series, but you can't fly to Brazil and play 2 games in a row there. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Where the Brazilian team could fly up there and stay for 3 or 4 weeks and that would be fine, but it doesn't work unless you add more teams to either Mexico or Brazil to have multiples. And I don't think they have enough of a fan base to do that. So I think they're going to continue expanding just the way they've been doing it. They did Germany last year and England and
They're
Mexico.
doing Brazil this year.
Yeah.
Nancy?
Yeah, I think everybody's making pretty good points, valid points. I think that a healthy mix of what we've all said going on is what would benefit them the best, really. Because maybe having teams in other countries might not benefit the NFL, but certainly taking money from other countries because you're showing games there would benefit the NFL. And if you don't have to support the cost of flying everybody each way, you take care of the logistics problem. And for sure, they're already working on expanding the market. It's just a matter of, can we make enough money per team to expand teams? And I think to do that, you need 3 or 4 per country to make it worth it to go to all those spots. But I think that they'll make that available at a point in time when they see that it's lucrative enough. Like, you just kind of take a play out of Dana White's playbook. He was trying to get into Japan and Brazil. He's the president of the UFC. And during COVID, he was able to go to these different places, purchase the Apex Center and bring in fighters, quarantine them and have them fight there. And so if you did something similar where the venue is the big deal as opposed to the team, I think that would definitely help the NFL in expanding the league. But adding teams, I think, would be difficult, but also a smart business decision in the way that Cody was talking about. Because if you build it, they will come. We'll go Kevin Bacon on this one. I think, is that right?
Kevin Costner.
Yeah, one of the Kevins. And so 7-Eleven gets Kevin home by 11, something like that. So I think that if you showed the other countries like, hey, we're out here, we're going to play this sport. If you guys would like to come watch, we'd love that. I think if you do 3 or 4 years of that, you'll see the teams start to pop up, like people wanting to play. And that's how every sport starts, and then it grows organically. But football's been around for a long time, and other countries seem to prefer rugby and soccer to it. So, I mean, cricket, you can play cricket for 3 days. Did you know a cricket match can last like 3 days? That's insane. But I think if we see enough countries supporting it, that certainly we would expand those teams, but it might take a while for that to happen. That's my synopsis.
My wrap up here, and if any of you noticed, I never actually said what my position was going to be when I sent this out. It was kind of just a question. My position, and I'll take this just as far as expansion in and of itself, I think is a bad idea at this point, even domestically. You look at the parity across the league. The Panthers are already horrible, and you're going to take 2 players from them in order to put them on other teams. That's the way that some of those expansions have to happen. You have to take, I think it's 2 to 4 players from each team. It's like an expansion draft, and you're weakening not only the market, you're weakening the teams that that are already there and decreasing the parity in the talent involved in order to try to spread a thinner layer of talent across a larger canvas. And so I think once you try to add more teams, you'll start to see the quality of the play actually go down because you'll have less quality players.
I do have a rebuttal if we have time. Oh, sorry.
100 billion or whatever. I don't know how much it was. Was that?
Okay.
I don't know.
Cody?
I just said I have one quick rebuttal if we have time, mostly to what Dustin was saying. So one thing you had mentioned was taking the lowest team in the league, Panthers, and how they're not filling up the stadium, right? And that's true. You know, we could look at last season. They're horrible. I think they won 2 games with high expectations with Bryce Young at the helm, right? And the year before that, I think they also had low attendance, but it hasn't always been that way for the Panthers, right? Go back to 2015, I think, or 2016. Cam Newton was a quarterback, and they were a great team. They went to I think they went to the playoffs his first year. And so this is a thing where teams who are used to seeing good play and good teams, or fans that are used to seeing these good plays and these good teams are going, but then are not going when their team's not performing well. And so my point about that is, it's not that the stands aren't being able to fill up. It's just that the coaching is really the coaching strategy is kind of the issue. Work on that, you get the fans back in the stand. And so that's not really about that, like US not being able to fill up the stands. It's getting better players, better coaching, better personnel, and making sure you do the same thing overseas.
Yeah, my argument is to pair off what something Yancey said, is that TV is what wins for football, for sports in general, and so being able to try to show more sports more overseas in order to gain a larger market share overseas, because like I said, there's overseas people do not care about football. They do not care. There's 10 other sports they would rather watch. And so they have a lot of work ahead of them to gain market share before they can start to build and expand on that.
Well, then another idea. I mean, even the games in London over here at my time, the games that are televised, and they are televised usually on NFL.com. They're at 7 in the morning. No, my time. I mean, if you're in California, you have to wake up at 5:30, 6 a.m. to watch a game over there because of the time differences. And so just what one of you said about trying to shuttle people over there, have them adjust to the ridiculous time difference. Suddenly you're 18 hours later to try to overcome that. And then the whole market share. Are people in the US going to watch the game at 6:30 in the morning on a Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe they could play it on a Saturday, but I don't know. It's difficult to think about that. But I just wanted to kind of plumb the depths of that one. I put 3 questions in there. I'm only going to do 2. I'm only going to do one more for today because of time. But I want to talk about replay systems. We've had a lot of changes to what is reviewable, what is challengeable in sports, and so part of that has been done to increase what they call the integrity of the game, to make sure that the play is called right, and that and there's not bad mistakes. We've seen them happen in big games. Think of the New Orleans Saints, LA Rams NFC Championship game. It was clearly pass interference that was not called, and if they just reviewed the play, then they give I mean, it's not about favoring one team; it's about making the right call, especially as bad as that non-call was.
Changes the outcome.
Yeah. So the question is, why do we even have a replay system if certain parts or certain plays, certain types of things are not reviewable? In the spirit of improving the integrity of the game, my position, which I did have one in this one, is that every critical aspect of an entire play should be reviewable at a challenge. Both football and basketball. We're talking about I know we're talking about NFL right now, but the same thing happens in NBA where certain aspects are not reviewable when they clearly should be. So let's go a little bit different order. Just continuing on the line. Dustin, you go first. Cody, you're going last.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you have to do either all or nothing. And if you're going to go all, stop with the on-court referees have to make the call and they go over to a monitor and put a headset on and talk with somebody in New York, Connecticut. Yeah, and make the decision. No, if you're going to go all, have some, you can have dedicated guys who's watching it from Secaucus and can just make the call right there. They're trained referees. They know what to do. And they can just simply say one word down to the referees and you don't have to stop. Don't have to stop for more than a few seconds. But I think that's the all argument. I am in favor of stop with the replay because especially in basketball, the thing that drives me nuts is after every single foul call, every single thing, every player's going, just twirling their finger, yelling at their coach, review it, call the replay, call timeout, and they're just complaining. And what I absolutely hate is this player says, no, review it. And then they show the replay, and it's the most blatant foul since O.J. Simpson killed his wife. Like, it is, they were so, why did you want to review it? Like, because you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. Why are you calling a replay? And so I say, at that point, get rid of it. If the players can't have integrity, then just get rid of it.
Thing I was thinking about is in all the sports, they say the call on the field stands unless you can absolutely see something different. And if you're going to have replay, why? Why don't the refs in New York just look at it brand new and say, no, we got to see it 8 times in slow motion. The ball hit the ground rather than say, I couldn't tell. Yeah. I didn't like that, but I think it's either all or nothing.
Yancy?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think we all pretty much agree on this in that if you're going to have a review system, it needs to be the standard, period, point blank. Otherwise, it collapses on itself and it makes no sense because you're picking and choosing where you're going to have integrity in the sport, right? Like if you're, like you guys are saying, where have this referee look at it, then have this referee look at it, and then they can debate about it in headphones and then tell you what the decision is. I think that it's helpful, certainly, to have the replay system, but I think you need to adhere to a strict line of we look at it and we find out what it really is and don't go off of opinions and just look at the facts. You have evidence in front of you to see what the call should be. And if we can't agree on that, then just stop rewatching it. Rewatch it when it comes out next week or in highlights or whatever, and then complain about it then. But I'm also all or nothing here. Either go with the call that you can see with your own eyes, or don't hassle with it. It's a waste of everybody's time to say we're going to put this under review, but then it doesn't ultimately matter anyway because you're like, oh well, we can't actually check to see if that's what happened. So
I'm almost jumping out of my seat to try to say something, but I know Cody is up next. So go, Cody.
One more thing. OJ lost that civil suit, knows the Goldmans a ton of money, so he definitely murdered Ron Goldman, and I can say that without getting sued. Go ahead.
I'm strongly in favor of keeping the replay system. And the reason why, to just sum it up quickly and we'll get to Scott, is I'm going off with Dustin because he's kind of like opposite of my view. You make good points about the whole, poor me crying out for the game, yada, yada, yada. But for those small things that really test the integrity of the game, the small plays that could cost a playoff game, the small plays that could cost the Super Bowl or the NBA championship game, those plays deserve to be reviewed. And if it's just those types of plays that bring in the necessity of the replay system, then so be it. It's because of that level of play, that level of stage, the pressure that needs to be correct calls. Going back to that Saints Rams game you were mentioning, that should have been the Saints in the Super Bowl. It absolutely should have. And obviously it wasn't. And so things like that needs to be reviewed. So I think, I agree with the whole idea of the all or nothing, but absolutely every aspect should be reviewable in some capacity. I understand there's subjective views and yada, yada, yada. We can figure that out. But absolutely, replay system, it is essential for those small things in big instances.
Everyone has been saying all or nothing. Get rid of the nothing. It's all. So get rid of that nothing crap. So here's the thing. So, and I'm talking about both sports. Basketball, Dustin. When they're reviewing like which player barely touched the ball to go out of bounds, right? I hate that just as much as you do, because it barely grazes some guy's finger and then goes out of bounds. Obviously, it's the other team's ball. But there's a lot of times where the commentators are saying, clearly, this guy fouled him, and they can't review that. They can only review that it went out of bounds. They should be able to say, hey, wait a minute, this guy punched the other guy in the chest before they did that. And so it should really be this team's ball. We shouldn't penalize them for a graze of the finger, but we should actually penalize the team that committed a blatant foul that our referees missed. And so that's what I'm talking about. All aspects of the play should be reviewable in that context. And then going back to the NFL, it's sorry, I lost my train of thought real quick. But all of these aspects of a play not only need to be part of this replay system, but we need to protect the integrity of the game better than just saying that what am I trying to say here? I'm sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. I'm trying to re-find it. But so let me just stop there and see if anyone has any rebuttals, and I'll try to re-find my train of thought. But all aspects of a play should be at play when reviewing those things. And I'll find my train of thought again as someone else speaks.
Yeah, so rebuttal to Cody and to Scott mostly. Scott, I like what you said, that they should be able to review all the aspects of the play, and I would absolutely agree with that. But the definition of a penalty is way too ambiguous for an all thing to happen. Because let's talk about football pass interference. What's called pass interference in the first quarter of Game 3 is a lot different than what's called pass interference in the fourth quarter of a playoff game. It has to be the same. It has to be the same. And so the NFL would have to define exactly what pass interference is, and it would have to be called the same every single time.
And I love that.
Right now. It's not right now.
Then
Same with basketball.
I love that idea. Yeah.
It's not right now. Same with basketball. A foul is called very differently based on the different emotions of the game. And I think that opening that up and saying, hey, it's this time every time, it's going to hurt the sport more, because it removes that opportunity for passion to when they're wrestling down to try to catch the Hail Mary and trying to get it. And you're like, nope, that's a foul. Sorry. Do it again.
I definitely understand that. You don't want to make the game become a handbook game, right? You don't want to have to necessarily live by the letter of the law, but you don't want to. You also don't want to open yourself up to those. How the NBA does the last 2 minutes review and says, "Oh, we screwed up. This team should have won the game." Like, that should not happen. That should be removed from the game. They should be able to fix those critical moments. And so maybe it's a final 2 minutes of the game kind of a thing where every aspect of the play is reviewable. I'm just throwing out some ideas, but I do like the idea that we should have a standardized set of what a penalty is, or what what an out of bounds play is, what is reviewable and what is not, and we're not there yet in both of these sports, and it gets problematic. And there's probably 4 or 5 games in the NFL every year that are decided with the officials, and making bad calls, I should say. And I don't want to advocate every game being decided by the officials. I want it to be decided by the rules. I'm not explaining this very clearly, but anyone else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand what you're saying, and although very good points to Dustin, I think yeah, let's redefine it. Let's make it so that, and I'm going to use pass interference because that's probably the easiest example. Let's make it so it's objective and not subjective. Let's make that rule so it's objective, and the best way I can describe this is explaining, in my line of work, there's a term of intervention in the least restrictive way, right? And so that's the same idea here, is we want to make sure that the integrity of the game is being kept, that the right call is being made, but that we're not intervening in every single way. And so whole idea of that, the passion, the competition, you're running down the field and you're intertingling your fingers with the other guy, that should not be PI, right? So they should redefine that to be, where is the actual pass, where is it actually being intervened, where is that actually happening, and make it objective. And then that's the only way they can go by that point. I think if it's done that way, then it meets the mandate of keeping the integrity of the game while also allowing the passion and the competition to still be there.
What would you guys think about feeding a replay through an algorithm, and you tell the computer what the parameters of a penalty is, and you have that computer system or algorithm, however you want to voice it, watch each and every play and break down, look, I'm flagging here, here, and here as penalizable moments, and then you have a human watch it and decide, okay, this wouldn't affect the game. It's just because it's a computer that it had to flag that ones and zeros stuff, and then move from there. So that way you still have a heart making the decision, but you have a true mind deciphering whether or not it was overstepping the bounds of play and affecting the spirit of the game. What do you guys think of that?
If that's a possibility, I would like the idea of
AI.
AWS.
of AI reviewing a game that has already happened and seeing how many calls were subjective based on the rules, and and maybe AI would call like 32 fouls in a game, and if that's the case, let's not use it. But
right, that's why you have the human as an intermediate to work between and say, like, wow, no dude is going to call that. That's Allen Iverson. That's a court. He carries every game. You see what I mean? Like, and if you put that in place, I think you get that strength of fascism and like, no, these are the rules, and also the subtlety of a human that's like, well, this is going to make the game unwatchable if you're blowing a whistle every 40 seconds.
Yeah, and I think it's a good idea. It's probably better to where it's done after the game, and officials can kind of, it's almost like watching film. What did I do wrong? What can I do better, in a way? Because the truth of it is that if you're having that, the ones and zeros, this binary system doing it, it's going to be every play. All right, stop it. We have 6, 7, 8 things we got to look at here, and that's going to make already a 2.5, 3, maybe actually a little over 3-hour game become a 5-hour game. And so I think, it's a good idea, but it can't be used in game. It would have to be something where the referees are essentially watching film afterwards.
Amazon is tracking the speed of every ball, foot, hand, and neck on the field right now. You guys should look that up. So we can tell 100% where every human is and what they're doing in real time now. So I see the only reason not to use that is laziness or fear for being called out and knowing that all your referees are wrong all the
or
time.
that it probably costs about $2 million a minute to do. But, so
I mean, when you got 16 trill, what are we worried about?
all of this, it's again, I feel like backs up my point of nothing.
Yeah,
It's
just play the game.
just, it's we're not ready. You got to be able to define the rules, but you have to define them with leniency. You can't define them as if you touch his arm when the ball's in the air, pass interference. Because what does that mean? Touch,
Right.
pass interference. Like, that's what it means. And so you can't say, oh, but he did it with aggression. Like, that's not definable. It's not definable.
Where's
And
Athlete
so-
Bailey when you need him?
Yeah, and so I'm still. This just backs up the nothing.
I think I understand your point, Dustin, but going back to your first original point, trying to bring this home for a conclusion here, I do like the idea. I mean, you want the guys to have jobs, but all the referees have this is, their hobbies. They have, like, they're all lawyers or something, I think. But like, I like the idea of having one guy in a one, two, three guys in a room that are reviewing the plays, and they buzz down the field when, hey, that's a play that it was egregiously called wrong, or that's a play that wasn't called that needs to be called right. Buzzing down, no matter what the play is, no matter if it's quote unquote reviewable or not. If it's egregiously called, they call down and say, hey, you made a mistake here. In basketball or football, and you let the refs do the rest of the job the way that they're doing. But these egregious calls that are not quote reviewable or anything like that, they need to be fixed. And I understand, Dustin, I can hear you, anticipate you saying, yeah, but you got to define egregious, and I understand that. But something has got to change a little bit better to avoid having teams lose games due to non-calls or bad calls.
The very last thing, sorry, I know we're kind of going over, is maybe contrary to your belief, egregious can be defined, and these things can be defined, objective can be defined. I'll leave it there.
That's subjective. Sorry, I couldn't help it. You just lob it up there, bro. I'm gonna.
I wanted to see how your reactions were.
Okay, anything else from anybody?
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Dad.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was good talking to you, Marv. I missed you, buddy.
You my 4 boys.
Okay, next week we may be talking about the NBA Finals review. We'll do that plus anything else. I will not be here next week, so leaving it in the capable hands of the 3 other Backyard Brothers to handle it. I'll send in my comments or review that you guys can read on the air. But other than that, I will be vacationing with my family in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. Last comment: Celtics have blown up the third quarter. They're looking to start to run away.
What's the score?
I think it was 83-70.
Okay.
All right, boys.
All right. Talk to you later.